Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Crimson and in this video we are going to be continuing and finishing our look through of the Warhammer 40k Blood Angels 10th edition Codex. So in part 1 we covered a good bit of just the general lore, as well as I explained and showcased the Death Squad. I explained and showcased the Death Company units and what they are in lore and what they are in tabletop, as they are one of the exclusive units for Blood Angels. There were a few others that we're going to cover, but in part 1 we only covered the Death Company, as well as going through and learning about all 4 of the named characters that you can play as. So those would be Astaroth the Grim, the Martyrs, Mephiston, and Chapter Master Dante. So in this video we are just going to be continuing where we left off. I did jump ahead in part 1 to cover the named characters, but this we are just going to be going straight through. And as always with these videos, I will not be covering the data sheets or data cards at the end of the book, just because I feel that's just spewing information that I feel like the casual viewer won't enjoy. Anyway, let's get started. Okay, so now we are on to the showcase section. This is the part of the book where we see a lot of really cool miniature dioramas, in this case showing the Blood Angels in battle against myriad different foes, as well as some different models that we can see down here. So we have our Intercessor Sergeant, a standard intercessor, which we actually saw right at the start of part 1, our jump pack intercessor, our assault intercessor, our sergeant, our eradicator sergeant, our sanguinary priest, and our captain. Now, personally, I don't have any captains that look like this. This guy looks very cool, but he looks more like a sanguinary guard than a captain. But maybe that's just the captains that I have bought compared to the ones that I should have bought, but it doesn't matter. I like the ones that I bought. I actually have a few of these models here with me right now, as I was just painting them earlier. So I don't have all of the models shown in that picture with me right now. I was just fixing some parts and repainting some parts earlier, and I just happened to still have these 3 in my kitchen. So this is the Intercessor Sergeant. So you can see that he just has his standard bolter, he has his shoulder pads painted black, and he has his little crest on his backpack or power generator. I really like this. It's a very sleek model and sleek design. It's not, all up in your face like, oh, look at me. In case you don't know, Blood Angels sergeants wear black shoulder pads. So that's why his shoulders are black. Whereas your standard intercessor or any Blood Angel unit really, that is not a sergeant and it's just a normal unit, would normally just have red shoulders. Next we have my Terminator Captain. So you can see him here. He has his double barrel bolter in one hand and his power sword in the other. The green was a very impromptu idea. I just wanted to do something different, and I think it actually worked out really well. But again, black shoulders, and yeah, I need to add some decals to them because I ended up having to paint over the decals. But yeah, I think this looks really, really good, and is certainly a good unit to lead my Terminators, because if you have seen my Blood Angel Army video, I have a lot of Terminators. And lastly, we have a captain. Now, this is not the captain that was shown in the book. As you can see, this guy does not look like a sanguinary guard, does not have gold armor or anything of the sort. However, he is probably my favorite captain model out of all of the ones that I have. I try and have at least one of each captain and one of each lieutenant as they come out, just for variety, and I can kind of, you know, kick bash them a little bit, make them a little bit more unique. But I like this guy a lot. He has his bolter in one hand, his sword in the other, pointing out with his flowing cape, and his gold helmet. The gold helmet, of course, being the color that lieutenants or captains in the Blood Angels paint their helmets. And he does have a yellow shoulder pad as well. That is purely just because I thought it looked cool. But yeah, so that's all I have for these guys, but I do have a lot more units that I want to show you, so we will get to those very shortly. So just before we continue, here we can see a couple more murals and dioramas and stuff. I think they are very, very cool, but I do actually just prefer the standard art. These are really nice, but nothing beats classic art for me. So here we have a couple more units. Again, we have a Terminator, and we have what looks like a so this is listed as a Death Company dreadnought, which technically it is, but it is actually a Brutalis dreadnought, which is a much heavier class of dreadnought, and but it's just painted and set up to look like a Death Company dreadnought. So that's absolutely still possible. You know, if you want to make a Death Company dreadnought, any dreadnought, that's cool. But there is an actual official model that we covered in part 1 that is the Death Company dreadnought. So I feel like naming it or listing it as a Death Company dreadnought is a little bit misleading. Up here we have some more. Sorry, I forgot the camera was down. We have some more images of some tanks rolling down. But yeah. So we're gonna take a little bit of a detour here. So this goes into some more units. So this is the Sanguinary Guard, and this is the Sanguinor. Okay, so next up we have a subject called the Devastation of Baal. If I remember correctly, I believe there's a book by that name, so I'm assuming these are covering the same events, but anyways, let's just dive right in and get on reading. So, the Devastation of Baal. Several years prior to the emergence of the Cicatrix Maledictrum, the first tendrils of the Hive Fleet Leviathan plunged into the galaxy, invading dozens of systems. One such tendril overran the Cryptis system, also known as Krypton Shield, due to its strategic role of protecting Baal from invasion. The Lord of the Blood Angels, Commander Dante, led a strike force composed of the Blood Angels' 1st and 2nd companies, alongside elements of the Flesh Terrors, with each world the Cryptoid tendril, named after the Cryptus system, overran it and replaced its losses swiftly. The Imperial defenders were not were not so fortunate. Leviathan's swarming biovessels ground relentlessly. The idea of biovessels and everything just grosses me out. Sweeping across several systems, leaving dead worlds in their wake. The Blood Angels were eventually forced to annihilate one of the Cryptus system's primary planets, using the expanding debris cloud expanding debris cloud of the destroyed world to scatter and stow the remaining Tyranid, or slow the remaining Tyranid fleet. Yet this Pyrrhic victory was but the beginning of Leviathan's onslaught into the region. Dante accepted that the tendril was far from defeated, and ordered his forces to retreat to the Baal system, where they would hold and make their stand. Hive Fleet Leviathan's all-consuming advance soon reached the outskirts of the Baal system. A tide of Hive Fleet Leviathan's all-consuming advancing soon reached the outskirts of the Baal system. A tide of the rapacious Tyranids fell upon their home's world of Baal and the twin moons of Baal Prime and Baal Secundus. The Xenoswarm warrior organism numbered in the hundreds of billions. Then, its alien hunger was insatiable, reinforced by many successor chapters. The sons of Sanguinius were determined to fight to the last in defense of their home world, and the Blood Angels' fortress monastery, the Arx Angelicum, was besieged, its walls beset by wave upon wave of slavering foes. Meanwhile, Baal Primus, the bloodshed summoned forth a tide of demons of Khorne. The demonic hordes slaughtered Tyranids and Space Marines with equal fervor, forming the profane icon of the Bloodthirsters. Kabanda from piled skulls at the of the dead. The Blood Angels responded to this insult by obliterating the Malfaric mark. Just as defeat seemed inevitable, however, the Great Rift split open. Just as defeat seemed inevitable, however, the Great Rift split open, tearing a real. Just as defeat seemed inevitable, however, the Great Rift split open, tearing real space in 2. When the rolling warp storms of the blasted rolling warp storms that blasted across Baal and its neighboring systems dissipated, the Tyranid fleet had disappeared. In its place were Imperial warships with the Indominus warships of the Indominus Crusade, led by Rabute Gilliman himself. The armies of the Lord Commander had come to the aid of the beleaguered Blood Angels. These Tyranid organisms, the Tyranid organisms remaining on Baal and its moons were now trapped. The majority were hunted down in the following weeks, yet some remained hidden and would present a constant threat in the years to come. In the wake of the fighting, a time of rebuilding began. Gilliman first brought with a Primaris reinforcements and the technologies required to forge these new Space Marines with the influx of the new technology. Commander Dante hoped the Blood Angels and their varied successors could rearm and rebuild. Also, I just want to say I apologize for my cat in the background. She is very vocal today. Okay, let's continue to our next section. Just before we do though, I just want to apologize for the last little few paragraphs I read. I am recording this section a few hours after the previous one, just because I was extremely tired during that recording, and it shows in my voice and my ability to read. But I am now fully awake and ready to go. So let us get started. So the next section is called Wardens of the Imperium Nihilus. The events of the devastation of Baal resulted in the near destruction of the Blood Angels and many other successor chapters. Thankfully for the Sons of Sanguinius, Gilliman's timely arrival and the defeat of High Fleet Leviathan's tendril provided the weakened chapter and its successors with an opportunity to rearm, rebuild, and reinforce. Teams of artisans and chapter serfs labored tirelessly to restore the heavily damaged remains of the Arx Angelicum and its former glory. Meanwhile, the chapter's apothecarian mastered the Primaris' technology. The chapter's apothecarian mastered the Primaris technologies provided to them by Gilliman's fleet, beginning the painstaking process of forging a new generation of warriors from the remaining stocks of gene seed. In Baal's orbit, the Skyfall Stardock prepared the battered remains of the Blood Angels fleet for action once more. Despite the rebuilding, there was little time for respite. The opening of the Great Rift had shrouded fully half the Imperium in psychic darkness, cutting it off from the light of Terra and the Emperor himself, with the lack of the Astronomicon providing safe travel through the Emphiric upheaval disrupting the psychic communication between systems. The Imperium Nihilus, the second of the galaxy in which the Baal system lay, soon found itself riven by fresh conflicts. Rabute Gilliman, having recognized Commander Dante's natural gift for command, named him the Warden of the Imperium Nihilus. It would be left to Dante and the Sons of Sanguinius to provide a beacon of hope to those caught adrift in this benighted region of real space. Okay, let's continue. So here's the continuation of the page, but before we actually get into reading, I want to quickly just show you guys this paint or picture here, this artwork of two Terminators Now, what's really, really awesome is I actually own this exact model of Terminator. I believe he's either a Terminator Sergeant or a Captain based on the sigil on top of him. If I can find a picture of him, I will post it up on screen now. However, if you have seen my Blood Angels Army Showcases video, you know that my Blood Angels army is absurdly large, and trying to find one unit in all of that mess is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. So I will do my best to try and show you my model, but I almost have him painted exactly with the exact same weapons, even down to the power hammer. And then we just have a standard Terminator here, which is really nice. It looks like this guy has a power fist. Anyway, let's get on to the actual reading. So we're going to read the little bit on the side first. Let me zoom in a little bit for you guys. So this is not really to do with the continuation of what we just read. This is more just a little side piece, but I find it interesting, so I want to share it with you guys. So this is about the Baal Predator. The Baal Predator. The Blood Angels chapter has a practitioner's relationship with the Adeptus Mechanicus. This is due to the Blood Angels' possession of the standard template constructs, otherwise known as an STC, data required to assemble the Baal Pattern Predator, a fast-moving anti-infantry tank bristling with weapons. The Blood Angels view the template as a chapter relic to be guarded closely and never to be shared with others. Tech priests, meanwhile, claim that the pattern of the vehicle has never been sanctified and that the STC template should be turned over to them for evaluation, an action the chapter is unlikely to ever perform. But essentially, the Baal Predator is a Blood Angels exclusive version of the Predator tank. Normally there's only two variations, the Annihilator and the Destructor, but the Blood Angels have their own, and it is by far my favorite, and I think it's the best looking one. It is insanely good at anti-infantry with either a twin, I believe it's a twin like Mega Bolter cannon, or a Flamestorm cannon, so it can be used to mow down hordes of elite infantry, or to just set ablaze hordes of standard infantry. Okay everyone, so this is my Blood Angels Baal Predator. So like I had said previously, this is a variation of the Predator tank, which there are normally only two standard versions of. However, the Blood Angels get access to this one, the Baal Predator, and it is by far, in my opinion, both the coolest looking and also the best of them. The other two Predators are just better tanks, and there are other Astartes tanks and vehicles and dreadnoughts that essentially do the same thing. So for the main turret, I have the twin-linked assault cannons. These are extremely good at cutting down elite anti-infantry, which is very, very important to have. A lot of tanks and vehicles either just do standard infantry, then chaff, or deal with other tanks and vehicles. Not a lot actually specialize in anti-infantry as far as anti-elite infantry as far as I'm concerned. So having a dedicated unit for that is incredible. Up here we have a turret-mounted double-barreled Stormbolter. Really good. I don't have the guy popping out the top. I just thought it looked cooler without it, but the turret is still there. And then on either side I have a heavy bolter. So the heavy bolter, again, oops, that almost came off. The heavy bolter is one of two choices you can have for the side, either las cannon or heavy bolter. The las cannon is best used for dealing with vehicles and armor. The heavy bolter is best used for dealing with infantry. So I just thought, since this is already an anti-elite infantry vehicle, I might as well just go, full on anti-infantry everything. So anti-elite infantry main gun, anti-infantry turret, anti I guess both. It's mainly just a standard anti-infantry, but I guess it can do anti-elite too on both sides. And also here we have a grenade launcher. So extremely good vehicle. It does actually look a lot different than the other Predators if you have seen them. And as you can see, there are some different iconographies and stuff on it. So you have, this little logo here of Sanguinius or the Sanguinor. We have this marking here, meaning that this is second company. We went over that whole, the whole iconography thing on part 1, but yeah, this is my Ball Predator, and I absolutely love it. There's another little embossed Blood Angel logo here in gold. Absolutely amazing vehicle, and again, just another reason why you should pick Blood Angels, because oh my god, this thing on the tabletop is insane. Anyway, back to the book. Countless amastropathic cries for aid began to echo from the void, even before the rebuilding upon Baal had even completed and the chapter's strength restored. The Blood Angels had dispatched dozens of strike forces out into the stars. Strike Force Ephorial led the relief of the Stranza, annihilating traitorous Imperial Guard elements and clashing with rampaging demons of Khorne. The Blood Angels and the Carmine Blades combined to wrest the Dawn's system from the hands of the Black Legion. With Inquisitor Daedalus of the Order Hereticus and Gabriel Seth's Flesh Terrors continuing the conflict. The onslaught of Abaddon the Despoilers, Arcs of Omen, and their attendant Baal fleets further tested the resolve and resources of Dante and his brothers, and forced the chapter master to commit his elite war to war. The Battle of Wormwood saw Dante lead the Sanguinary Guard and many of First Company into battle against the arrayed forces of Abaddon, Vashtor, the Arcathane, and the Daemon Primarch Angron. Wow, Angron's even here. That's how you know something's really important. Fighting alongside the Dark Angels and their newly returned Primarch, Lionel Johnson, Dante's forces cut down hundreds of Abaddon's Black Legionaries and Angron's battle-hungry World Eaters. However, such was the ferocity of the fighting that the Blood Angels' Sanguinary Guard were almost annihilated, the majority of them slain by Angron as they attempted to defend their chapter master from the Daemon Primarch's murderous wrath. Though Dante's forces won many great victories over their foes, the sheer number of desperate pleads for aid soon became overwhelming. Rampaging heretic Astartes warbands emerged from the warp storms to raid at will The opportunistic Drukhari raiders and Eldari corsairs plundered Imperial ships. Heretic cultists inspired violent uprisings on once loyal worlds. As if these myriad threats were not enough, the spectre of High Fleet Leviathan still loomed. The Blood Angels reconnaissance units continued to report sightings of Leviathan's biovessels throughout the Red Scar. Commander Dante was only too aware that the High Fleet's withdrawal had been temporary in the void. Leviathan was mustering its strength once more, biding its time biding its time until its shoals of bioships could once more thrust themselves deep into the Imperium Nihilus. The powers vested in Dante by Roberto Gilliman bestowed ultimate authority over all Imperial forces within the Imperial Nihilus. Within the Imperial Nihilus to the Lord of the Blood Angels. Such an appointment fills many within the Inquisition with fear, for the misuse of such immense power would threaten the very integrity of an already divided Imperium. However, even those who secretly question the wisdom of such an appointment agree that if any can be trusted to wield such a mighty responsibility, then it is Commander Dante. At Dante's behest, the Blood Angels have continued to issue apoplectic rallying cries to those Imperial forces still active within the Imperium Nihilus, and those who have managed to receive the summons through the churning warp have begun to arrive in the Ball system. The fractured remnants of the Navis Imperialis sector's battle fleets, Space Marine chapters, and others still loyal to the Imperium to arrive with every passing cycle, bolstering Dante's forces to even greater strengths. From these desperate remnants of the broken and defeated Dante's attempts to forge a force capable of restoring Imperial rule to worlds and systems placed under his charge, these vessels and military regiments have also been accompanied by the shiploads of desperate refugees who must be resettled, another burden upon the chapter master's shoulders. The Lord of the Blood Angels labors under no illusions, however. The role bestowed upon him, while a great honor, requires the undertaking of the impossible. Nevertheless, the Blood Angels and their successors commit to their duties with dedication and loyalty, for they know no other way. Just as their Primac sacrificed his own life for the Emperor, so will they gladly lay down their lives in defense of humanity's realm. So this is a very intense and a very serious battle with the fate of Imperial Nihilus in stake. So very important. And the fact that the Sanguinary Guard almost got wiped out is insane. But, it wouldn't be a 40k battle if almost everyone got wiped out on either side. So before we continue on to our next heavy reading section, there is one thing I want to show you guys in the Codex, and I know I don't show the stratagems or the data sheets, but this I feel is very cool and also very important to the Blood Angels, and one of the reasons why I like them a lot. And that is the Blood Angels iconography and their heraldry. So we're going to go through this in a bit more detail. We'll go through each picture and I will show you some accompanying models I have for each. But first, let's just read what it says at the top. So, the Blood Angels broadly follow the organizational tenets set down by Roberto Gilliman in his Codex Astartes. Despite this, however, the Sons of Sanguinius go to war bearing a set of unique squad markings and heraldry. The majority of these symbols and icons date back to the time of Sanguinius. Thanks to their culture of artistry and craftsmanship, many Blood Angels, particularly officers, adorn their armor with further elaborate decorations. And that's true, and you guys will see that in a second. So, one thing that I really love about the Blood Angels as both a chapter and a legion is they have such very clear-cut iconography and symbols, so much so that just by looking at the symbols on a soldier's shoulders and his knee, you can tell what company he is in and what position he is in his squad. So if we look here, you see this is your basic intercessor. Over here we have the company markings. So for example, the skull is first company, this is second company, the yellow drop of blood, third company is the white, fourth company is the green, black, 2 yellow, 2 white, 2 green, 2 black, a black circle with a red drop for 10th company. Really cool. But what makes it even better is then if we go below, we see these symbols here. So these symbols go on the soldier's right knee. And this shows what position they are in their company. So as you can see, this is, let's say first company, squad member number 1, squad member number 2, squad member number 3. So let's have a look at this guy, for example. So we see that he has the second company icon on his shoulder, and on his knee we see that he has the first squad designation. So this guy is second company squad member 1. And all of these are applied through the transfers that you get when you buy Blood Angels. So these are completely optional. You absolutely do not need to do this to have an amazing looking army, but it's just so cool that you can actually show exactly what position, what company, and what rank each of your units are, as well as their roles. We will get to the roles in a second. And we also just have the general Blood Angels logo here, which is this, the winged blood droplet, which I think is one of the best symbols in all of the Space Marine legions. I know I keep saying legions. I do know that it's chapters now, but I mainly just focus on the legions when it comes to the Space Marines. They're the ones that I like, so I always still think of the Blood Angels as, the legion, the 9th legion. So over here we see some of the roles that I was talking about. So we see that a red helmet is just a standard tactical just a normal battle line soldier, just a standard red helmet on red armor. Then we have a yellow helmet for close support. So this is anything to do with close quarters engagements. They have yellow helmets. For heavy weapons, so this is called fire support, anything to do with heavy weapons, so melters, flamers, heavy bolters, anything like that, you get this nice dark blue helmet. And then you have a gold for veterans, so these should be, your blade guard, your stern guard, your vanguard veterans. And then here we have a little bit, it's kind of hard to tell the difference between these two in my opinion. This one is just ever so slightly shinier, and this is the command. So this would be your captains and your lieutenants. So again, not only can you show the company and the squad designation, but you can also tell what role they serve just by looking at them, as well as their weapons. The weapons make it obvious, but I just think the helmet is so cool. And again, this is absolutely completely optional. If you don't like how it looks, if you don't like having, red armor with a yellow helmet, that is absolutely fine. You do not need to do this. However, I adore this system. This is one of the reasons I picked Blood Angels for my loyalist Marine Legion, apart from the lore. So here we have an assault intercessor, as you can see shortly. So here we have a pistol and a chainsword, because he is all about up close and personal and slashing and hacking with that chainsword. Here we have a blade guard. Blade Guard Veteran is what they are called. So it doesn't show it here, but the models actually have them with a shield. I will show you guys in a second. But they carry massive power swords, which look amazing, as well as capes and cloth, loincloths. As you can see, this guy's armor has a lot more decorum than the other guys. He also has gold trim around his shoulders, which is another sign of kind of veterans and command, as well as the halo. So as you can see, both of these guys are close quarter units, but this guy is a veteran, and this guy is just a close quarters intercessor. And then here we have an eradicator. So an eradicator is a unit in heavier armor, sometimes standard Tacticus, sometimes Gravis. Gravis being the heavier type of Astartes armor, and Tacticus being like the standard. Eradicators carry these heavy melters, which are so cool and absolutely devastating in game. And of course, because he is a heavy weapons guy, a fire support, he has a dark blue helmet. And yeah, really cool. And again, you can see there's a lot more decor on him than say your standard intercessor. And again, what's cool is, and I actually did not notice this, and I'm just realizing it now, that the blue helmeted fire support guys actually have red eye lenses. I did not know that. I think I might have done that accidentally a few times, but it was purely accidental. I did absolutely not mean to do that. Most of my guys, actually almost all of my guys have green eye lenses. So I have a bunch of miniatures that I have found taken out of my storage case that fulfill each of these roles, which I'm going to show you guys now. So we are going to go from left to right. So we're going to start with your standard battle line, then close quarters, then fire support, then veteran, and then command. So let's have a look at some miniatures. Okay, so just before we get started, I just want to say, if anyone is not interested in this part of the video, if either you're just listening to it for the lore or just want to read the lore on the screen, I will leave a timestamp on the screen for when this section is over, so you can just skip ahead if you are not interested in the miniature side of this. This is just more of me just kind of nerding out, wanting an excuse to kind of show my miniatures and stuff. So this is the battle line, guys. A few of them at least. So let's start off over here. So this is just your standard intercessor. He is your standard run-of-the-mill Space Marine. Just nothing fancy, just your bog standard soldier. But one thing that you can notice from him is the markings on him. So he has the Blood Angel sigil on his shoulder, on his other shoulder. He has the yellow teardrop, the one yellow blood drop, meaning he is from 2nd Company, and it's hard to make out, but this sigil on his knee pad is 10th Squad. So this guy is 2nd Company, 10th Squad. Really cool just to be able to kind of, look at the miniature and know exactly what part of the Blood Angels branch he's from. And again, the battle line are just your standard guys. Some of them are a bit more specialized than others, as we will see, but for the most part, these are just your normal guys. Next, we have an infiltrator. So this is a bit more of a stealthy unit, but still just carrying standard weaponry. Infiltrators are a little bit of a sneaky unit, kind of behind enemy lines and sabotaging and stuff. This model is probably one of my top 5 favorite models in my entire army, as the smoke grenade is so cool, and I think I did a pretty good job painting it, if I don't mind patting myself on the back. However, I did not give this guy the iconography. I did for about maybe a third of my army, but not all of them. Mainly just because one, it takes ages, and two, you only get so many transfers per purchase, and eventually you run out, and buying them third party or on eBay is very expensive. Next is just the Sanguinary Priest that we saw in part 1. Not really your typical battle line unit, but I just want to showcase him again just because, you know, he has the red helmet and has a bit more of decorum on him, kind of showcasing a fancier type of battle line. And then lastly for the battle line, this is more of the elite battle line, if that's even a thing. This is just a standard Terminator. Terminators are quite an elite unit, however they are still considered battle line. So most of them are in first company. This guy has a massive chain gun and just a red helmet. Fun fact, and I actually did not know this until very recently, I thought that Terminator captains had gold helmets based on captains having gold helmets, but no, they actually have red. So I made a very big mistake painting my Terminator captains, all 4 of them, with gold helmets when they should have been red. Anyway, that is it for the battle line. Next up is the close support. So these are my 3 models that I am showing for the close support. So these guys have the yellow helmets, and they are specializing in getting right up close and dealing hand-to-hand melee combat, or chainsword to chestplate. It's probably a better way to put it. So first up is the standard, and one of the ones that we actually saw in the book, and probably my favorite just type of loyalist space marine unit, is this assault intercessor. Again, he is of second company. He has just a bolter in one hand and a chainsword in the other. I absolutely love these guys. I have about maybe 20 of them, 25 I think. Way too much I know, but I just love these models so much. The next we have is a jump pack intercessor. So this guy is an older model, as you can tell by the type of jump pack that he has. And again, he serves a very similar purpose to the assault intercessor, with a bolt pistol instead of a bolter, but still carrying the chainsword. The main difference is he is able to move so much faster with his jump pack, and he's also able to jump around the map instead of having to actually run to the target. So he can jump to one guy, slash him in half, and then jump pack across the map and slash another guy. It's crazy. And then lastly, we have a Reaver. Now the Reavers are not that good of a unit, if I'm being completely honest. So again, you can see the markings on his knee and his shoulder, showcasing his company and his squad. So Reavers are a bit of a sneakier unit type. As you can see, they have a lot of kind of more gear on them, which I think is really cool. They are not the best unit. They are far from the best unit in my opinion, but I think they are just really cool, especially with the skull helmets, especially with the army that I am currently working on. You guys will understand why I like the skull helmets, but again, they deal in CQC. This model does not have one, but most of them have these massive combat knives, so that's why they have these yellow helmets. So really cool. Just again, 3 examples of the close support type units. Let's move on. So here are my fire support units, all of which are heavy weapons guy. I'm trying very hard not to make a TF2 joke. So we start off with the most straightforward as we have. So this is a heavy intercessor. This is just a intercessor with heavier armor. I actually don't know if he's in Gravis or Tacticus. I think it might be Gravis, but I'm not sure. And again, he just has a heavy bolter, very, very good weapon. Very standard, very basic, but amazingly effective in the right things. And again, we see he is part of a second company. Really cool model. I have about maybe 15 or 20 of these guys, same as the Assault Intercessors. I love them. Next is the Eradicator. So this is the one that we saw in the book. And this is a model I have of him. Again, Second Company. If you guys can't tell, I really like Second Company. I just think it's a cool look, very sleek, very minimalistic, and just gets the job across. So he has a lot more detailed armor, he has a lot more pouches, a lot more silver and symbols on him, and all of these different power cords. This guy is absolutely in Gravis armor. Like I said, Gravis armor is the heavier type with his massive heavy melter. This thing just absolutely destroys anything you point it at. Infantry, dead. Elite infantry, dead. Tanks, 2 shots, dead. So good. I think I have 15 of them. But that's just because I have gone beyond overkill with my Blood Angels. You absolutely do not need to buy the amounts I am saying for these units if you are thinking about starting a Blood Angels army or a Space Marine army in general. I really like them. I like the weapon most of all. I think I did a pretty good job on the barrel in particular. And again, he has the signature blue helmet. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is that the helmet color does not need to be universal. There's not a certain shade of yellow or a shade of blue, you know. My heavy intercessor has a lighter blue helmet, like a more kind of vibrant, whereas this guy has a much darker blue helmet. And we'll see here, this guy has a bit more of a shinier look. This is just because I put some varnish on him. But it's completely up to you. Whatever you prefer doing is what's best. And I just wanted to kind of experiment and just kind of play around with painting. As at this stage, I was still getting the hang of painting. Because I got this was my 3rd army that I bought. So, my 4th army. And my 1st Marine army, if you don't count Grey Knights. So this guy is another fire support, heavy weapons guy. This is an Infernus Marine. So this guy, again, Second Company. I've probably said that about 5 times already. With the black trim. I don't know if there's a meaning to black trim. I just did it because I thought it was cool. And his yellow helmet, and I did do the red eyes on this one. Again, completely accidental. I just thought the green would not fit in well with the with the blue helmet. So, he has his flamer. I'm not sure if this is a heavy flamer, but it's definitely heavier than the Imperial Guard flamer. And it is devastating on infantry. It just melts through everything. These guys, if you're playing a game and you bring some Infernus squads and some Devastator squads, your opponent is gonna be in shambles. But like I said, I did a lot of metallic paints on this one and applied a liberal amount of gloss. So that's how I got this effect, and I think it turned out really well. It's not something I want to replicate going forward, just because it's a little bit too much in my opinion. But having one squad of Infernus Marines like this just looks cool. And lastly, we have our aggressor. So aggressors are a variant of Gravis armor. They are almost like super Terminators. And again, fire support, heavy weapons. He has the blue helmet. So he has so many weapons. So let's get started. First off, he has 2 power fists. Then he has 2 missile launchers on his back. And he has grenade launchers, not missile launchers. And you have the choice of either having a flamethrower in your gauntlets or a heavy bolter in your gauntlets. A mega bolter. This guy has a mega bolter, as you can see, with the kind of ammo chain. And I did this little kind of black and yellow stripe thing to make it look like safety cords and stuff. And then here is his actual ammo reserves on his back. And this is full Gravis armor. There is one unit that is in Gravis armor that is bigger than this, that is a Centurion. However, I did not feel like bringing him out just because I thought these would be cool enough as is. So I have about 9 of these guys, and same with the Centurions. But yeah, that is my battle line. So let us move on to the veterans. So these are my veterans, or just some examples of the ones I wanted to show. So first off, we have the Blade Guard. So this is again the 3rd and final unit that was actually showcased in the book. As I said, it didn't show them in the book, but they have these shields and they have their golden helmets as veterans and their power swords as well as their halos. So these guys, I just want to say these shields look so cool, regardless of how I painted them, or how anyone paints them. My other guy's shields is painted completely different, but it still looks really cool. So these guys are elite anti-infantry units. They absolutely demolish anything that is not a vehicle. They are able to absorb amount of damage, they move surprisingly fast, and with their power swords, they just cleave through everything. Here is the other one. As you can see, I gave this guy a white shield, as opposed to this guy's red shield. And same thing, gold bits on his chest, gold shoulder trim, gold helmet, his loincloth, and then his power blade. I was a bit lazy with the power blades, but I think it is fine because I went ham on the shields. So these are the Blade Guard veterans. Highly recommend for any Space Marine army, but especially Blood Angels. I have about 9 of these guys, and that is more than enough. All you really need is 6 because Blade Guard veterans, their squads are 3, so having 9 means I have 3 full squads. And then this guy is an old Stern Guard veteran. So I do have 2 boxes of the new Stern Guard veterans, which I have. One of them I have yet to start painting, the other one I am in the process of painting. But this is one of the older ones, and while newer ones, in my opinion, look so much cooler, there is something amazing about these older models. I really do like old Space Marine models. So as you can see, he has a lot more decal on his armor as a veteran. He has ammo on his chest, he has this kind of angel wing on his shoulder, he has a knife on the back of his armor, below his power pack, and yeah, he's just so cool looking. I mean, look at the guy. He also has a fiddle camera, or whatever this is on top. I don't know what it is, but it looks cool, so I don't care. And again, as a veteran, he has his golden helmet. Now, I did not really do the differentiation between how shiny I made the gold between veterans and officers, but, gold is gold, and that's really all that matters. So these are my veterans, 2 Blade Guards, and a Stern Guard. I do also have some Vanguard veterans, but I did not paint their helmet gold, so I didn't want to show them. So finally, let's move on to our command units. So these are oh sorry, one rank of my command. These are my lieutenants. And I love these guys so much. I know so many people make the meme about, Space Marines and their Primaris lieutenants. Personally, I actually really like it because it enables you to customize them so much and have a lieutenant for every single purpose. You can have them with a power sword, you can have them with a bolter or a heavy bolter, you can have them with dual power fists, whatever you want they can have, and they come with every type of armor, as you guys will see. So first up is this guy. This is probably my favorite lieutenant model that I own, or at least one of them. His armor is so ornate. I love it. He has his bolt pistol. He has his power sword. He has this angel wing on his shoulder that is gold. He has gold plating around his thighs, which is a really nice touch, as well as a holster. More pouches on the back, more angel wings, and again the little kind of winged skull atop him, and the white Astartes symbol in the middle. I know there was a name for that, I'm drawing a blank, as well as this purity seal which is blowing in the wind. It's just such a great model in terms of like movement and stuff like that. I believe it's like, in motion models and stuff. And this really sells it, that this guy is in the middle of moving, maybe in a windstorm or something, and, everything's blowing around him. But I adore this lieutenant. Next, we have this guy. So, this is just another lieutenant that I have. Very, very cool, but not as cool as the first one in my opinion. So again, gold helmet. He has the kind of centurion type helmet, headpiece, aka the mohawk. I did just do the mohawk red because I thought that having the piece be golden on top of a golden helmet would be a bit too much. He has a golden wing on his shoulder, as well as just having the other shoulder rimmed in gold. Some purity seals. He has a bolter with a purity seal and a scope and a power sword. So great model, as well as this amazing cape with these tassels coming off of his power pack. And he also has his broken halo. Now that is not intentional, that is just me, breaking it over time. But personally, I actually think it adds character. I think it makes it look like, he's been through so many battles that, his armor's being chipped and damaged and stuff. Next up, we have a very interesting one. So this guy does not have a gold helmet because this guy is in Phobos armor. So this is the Phobos lieutenant. So we talked about Tacticus being the standard armor and Gravis being the heavy armor. Phobos armor is the light and sneaky armor. So that's what a lot of Reavers were, Infiltrators, Incursors, all those guys. So he has a power weapon. It did break off, so I just replaced it with a blade that I found. He has a lot of pouches on him. He has a very similar gun to the previous lieutenant. So instead of a helmet, he comes with this kind of head that has like this half face mask, and I did do the face mask gold. And he also has this like ammo pouch on his chest, as well as, these transfers of these skulls. Now, it is completely possible, if you want to head swap him and just give him a helmet, but personally I think that ruins the look. And also I think I did a good job painting, so I don't want to take away that, because painting faces, still 7 armies deep is still so difficult for me. And you can also tell Phobos armor by these 2 little kind of things hanging off the back of the power pack. So, really cool. So that is it for the lieutenants. Let's now take a look at some of the captains that I brought down. Now these are not all of my captains, not even close. These are just some of my favorites that I wanted to share. So let's start off with a simplest one, with this guy. So again, you can tell the difference instantly between him and a lieutenant. He has much more innate armor with gold and actual embossed shoulder pads instead of just spray painted on. He has the gold symbol on his chest, the gold helmet, the fully intact halo, the little tassels, the loincloth that's kind of stained with gold or bronze, the bit again on his shoulder and on his knee that still tells you apart. Although technically I made a mistake. This guy's a captain. He does not need something on his knee since he would be leading a company. And he has this awesome power sword and this bolter. I believe this is actually a heavy bolter with a nice leather strap and a purity seal. So I really like this guy. This is like my go-to captain. He's not the absolute best looking captain, but he is a solid 7 out of 10 in my opinion. But yeah, let's just keep going to move things forward. Next, we have one of my favorites. This is the captain with the master crafted bolter, which means that his weapon does insane damage. Again, gold helmet, gold sword, gold sheath that he can draw at a moment's notice, as long as this golden kind of almost like a sunburst brooch holding up his cloak. I really like how a lot of the captains actually do have cloaks. Again, he has this little halo-esque thing, but yeah, not much else to say about him. However, that I feel like I'm selling him short because this model is insane on the tabletop. Like, absolutely. Bringing one of these to the tabletop will like change the game in your favor permanently. Unless he dies, of course. So my other two are a bit more specialized. I'm not going to spend too much time on them because I want to wrap this section up. This is one of my jump pack captains. So this guy leads jump pack intercessors. Again, he has his plasma pistol, his power sword. You see the tassels, the ropes, the gold, the cape, the purity seals, everything. Initially, I actually added wings to him, but I took them off just because I thought the original silhouette looked really nice. So, yeah. And lastly, we have the captain with the relic shield. So this is the captain that leads the Blade Guard veterans. So as you can see, he's very similar in design with the power sword, a little bit more ornate with the halo, the golden helmet, a lot more tassels and ornaments on his person, especially on his loincloth. But the biggest difference between him and the Blade Guards is he actually has a human skeleton of, I'm presuming, a heretic on the front, which is just so cool and so extra and just completely unnecessary, but I think it just makes it so much cooler. So that is it for the 5 categories. However, there are a few other models I brought down that I just want to show you quickly, just because I think they are cool and worth showing off since I'm showing off different types of units. So, first, the 3 models are 3 different types of chaplains. So the chaplains are the religious figures, the kind of warrior priests of the Legion. They are able to lead squads in battle, and while they are very powerful, especially these two, and I'll get to why in a second, the buffs that they are able to grant are incredible. They are mainly defensive buffs, not really attack oriented, but more in terms of defense and life saving, like feel no pain and stuff like that. So first up, we just have our standard chaplain. This is the standard Primaris chaplain model. He looks very slim compared to the other Space Marines, but I like it. One thing that you'll notice about chaplains across all Space Marine chapters is they have these skull faceplates. Sometimes they are metal, sometimes they are made of real bone. It depends on how crazy or mad the chaplain is. So this guy looks really good. I think I did an okay painting job on him. I was a bit taken aback based on how small the model was. I was expecting him to be standard Space Marine size, but yeah, I think he turned out great. These two, however, are chaplains in Terminator armor, and these are two different variants. This is the newer one, and this is the older one. So we'll do the older one first, actually. So this is him here. Chaplains in Terminator armor, regardless of their oftentimes regardless of the chapter or legion they have, they wear black armor, and I don't know why this bit of blue showing up, but he has his Crozius in one hand and a Stormbolter in the other, and as you can see, he has that skull faceplate. Absolutely menacing. So this guy offers the same buffs and stuff as a chaplain. However, he is able to lead Terminators instead of standard units. So very good if you want to keep your Terminators alive. And then this is the other Terminator chaplain. This is the newer one. And my personal favorite of the bunch. He is almost identical to the Grey Knights one, but just with a few slight differences. Again, instead of having a half skull faceplate, he has just a full skull helmet with lots of bits and bobs of piety and stuff. He has this massive gauntlet. It's almost like an Orthesium gauntlet, but not medical at all. Very ornate shoulder pads. He has a, holy book literally chained to his back. And he has this massive power sword radiating with energies going through a Nurgle demon's head. I love this model so much, and I think this is actually one of my finest works in terms of Blood Angels. And lastly, before we end this section and get back to reading, we have the Librarian. So I have a couple different types of Librarians, but I just wanted to show you one. I have this guy, which is your standard Librarian. I have your Librarian in Terminator armor, your Librarian in Phobos armor, and yeah, they all offer different things based on, what type of armor they have and what type of units they can lead. This guy can basically just lead most standard units. And for those of you who are unaware, a Librarian is the Psyker of the chapter of the Legion. And they are very powerful. For example, Mephiston, as we talked about earlier, is Chief Librarian. So normally they have blue armor regardless of the chapter or legion that they serve. But I didn't really want to paint a blue guy for my Blood Angels army. I did paint the Terminator Librarian blue, but I wanted to make my standard one red, so I compromised and did blue fabric all around him with the red armor, and I think it turned out amazing. And as you can see, he has so many purity seals on his back. So that is it, guys. Let me know. I hate saying stuff like this, but what is your favorite Space Marine unit? Let me know in the comments. I am genuinely interested to know, because I always find it interesting how certain people just like certain models and molds better. Anyway, let us get back to the book. Thank you for bearing with me for me just nerding out over miniatures, but let's get back to reading. Okay, so our next section is called The Angelic Host, and we have this really cool picture of this guy. here. I'm not sure if he's a blood angel or just some kind of imperial soldier, but he definitely looks more Astartes. But I really like the color palette for it. So let's get into the first bit of dialogue. So, ordering the host. Legends tell that it was Ascalon of the Sanguinary Guard who made the historic decision to break up the Blood Angels to form chapters in accordance with the Codex Astartes, making his legion amongst the first to do so. Even though the Flaw was making its mark upon Sanguinius' sons, and the Blood Angels could ill afford organizational disputes at such trying times. Also, this is something I don't know if I've mentioned before. So the Black Rage is not exclusive to the Blood Angels. The Black Rage and the Red Thirst are symptoms that any chapter bearing Sanguinius' gene seed have. So if you are a distant chapter only recently found in the 41st millennium, and you have Sanguinius' gene seed, you are going to fall to the Black Rage at some point, which is terrifying because you don't even know why. At least the Blood Angels knew why. Anyway, largely a Codex adherent chapter, the Blood Angels organization has small differences that accommodate the Flaw and allow idiosyncrasies. To them, the Codex Astartes is not only a source of military wisdom, but also great discipline that can further aid them in restraining the dark urges. The Blood Angels are led by the Chapter Master and the Chapter Council, made up of captains, chaplains, sanguinary priests, and the Logisticon, and others. This body oversees the entire chapter and the Baal system. As managing the Blood Angels' most expanded duties in being one of the principal imperial authorities in the Imperium Nihilus. Many of the Blood Angels' officers hold additional titles, offices, and functions. Some of them are drawn from the Codex, such as the Master of the Marches or Master of the Watch. Others have evolved according to the Blood Angels' need and deep traditions over time, such as the Shield of Baal, Lord of Skyfall, and Caller of the Fires. Very interesting. So just before we continue, let's have a look at this little diagram at the bottom of the page here. So this appears to be like a tree or maybe a command structure of all the different positions. So we're going to start at the top middle and make our way down. So Chapter Commander is Commander Dante, Master of the Blood Angels, Lord of the Angelic Host. To his left is Reclusian, High Chaplain, Astaroth the Grim, Redeemer of the Lost. To the right, we have the Sanguinary Priesthood, Brother Corbulo. He is the High Priest of the Sanguinary Priests. Below Dante is the Armory, Brother Incarnal. Tech Marines, Servitors, Battle Tanks, Light Attack Vehicles, Land Raiders, Transport Vehicles, Gunships, and Warsuits. Seems like a very essential person to have. To his left, we have the Librarius, Chief Librarian Mephiston. To his right, we have the Sanguinary God, Brother Denatos, Exalted Herald of the Sanguinary God. This is really cool. And I actually plan on picking up Brother Denatos as a leader for my sanguinary guard, just because I really want to have him in my army for lore reasons. So next, after those 6 on the bottom, we have 10. So we are going to go top row then bottom row, going left to right. So we have the first company Archangels, the veteran company. The second company, the Blooded. The third company, the Iron Helms. The fourth company, Knights of Baal. The fifth company, Company Demonbanes. Sixth company, Eternals. Seventh company, the Unconquerable. Eighth company, Bloodblades. Ninth company, the Sunderers. And 10th company, the Redeemers, which is a scout company, which is very interesting. I forgot to mention, the 9th is a fire support company. The 8th is a close support company. The 7th and 6th are reserve battle line. So 6 and 7 have red helmets. 8 has yellow helmets. 9 has blue helmets. I am trying to think of as many Blood Angels sub-chapters that I can think of. So let me just list off what I can quickly think of. We have the Flesh Terrors, we have the Flesh Eaters, we have the Angels Vermilion, we have the Lamenters. I feel like there's another one. Is the one called the Angels Sanguine or something like that? I can't remember. I'm not really sure. All I know is a guy named Seth, who is the chapter master of the Flesh Terrors, which I am also going to be buying. Even though he is not officially a Blood Angel, he is still part of Sanguinius's gene seed, so to me he's an honorary Blood Angel. Plus his model just looks so cool. Anyways, let's continue with reading. Sanguinius himself developed the sanguinary priesthood and placed his legions Apothecarian on an organizational par with the chaplaincy. It is believed that he foresaw the troubles his sons would face in the future, and this made these changes both Apothecarian and Reclusian were to have equal parts in the legions and later the chapter's spiritual guidance. The Council of the Sanguinary Priests and Chaplains, known as the Council of Bone and Blood, appointed a new chapter master. Should one be required during the righteous vetting process, whereby potential candidates are assessed for their will and worthiness, the sanguinary high priest and high chaplain take joint temporary rule. The potent force of spiritual might flows through the Blood Angels' veins. One of many gifts these battle brothers possessed thanks to the power of the Primarch. They are only numbered amongst the most psychically gifted chapters, and the large quantity of librarians reflects the demands of the Blood Angels' logistical skills have never been higher. Thousands of Space Marines from all successor chapters. That's what they're called, successor chapters. I kept calling them like child chapters, but successor chapters makes a lot more sense. Are fighting in the Red Scar, all in need of armaments. In the aftermath of the Tyrannid Siege, the emergence of the Great Rift, and Dante's naming of the Warden of the Imperium Nihilus, the Blood Angels' homeworld has become a hub of activity for all manner of Imperial personnel and growing administration. Okay guys, so here are my Sanguinary Guard. I have 10 of them. Now I'm not gonna reiterate everything we just went through about what the Sanguinary Guard are, what they specialize in, the whole lore and backstory and all that, because we just after going over that, I'm just gonna be focusing on the tabletop aspect. So they are some of, if not the best melee units in the Blood Angels army. They are insane shock troops. They are classified as elite infantry. They are capable of deep striking and so much more. On top of that, they also all come with jump packs as standard. So for their weapons, they either will have a power sword or an axe, if I can find one of the guys that has an axe. So apart from the swords, they also carry some axes, both power and chain, I believe. But apart from melee weapons, some of them also carry some small little firearms. So this guard has a little bolt pistol with a drum mag, which is really cool. I like that they aren't just purely a melee unit. They are capable of doing range damage as well. They also all have these wings, and this is what their jump packs looks like in the models. I think it looks really cool. So the wings are not real wings, they are just part of their armor. They're not like Astaroth, who actually does have wings. These is just part of that armor. But there's one other model I want to showcase to you quickly. And also, I should just say, I do have the old Sanguinary Guard, and that is by choice. I am not a fan of the newest release of the Sanguinary Guard. I don't know why, there's just something about them that they just look off, and I don't know why. But I really like the look of these older ones. So let me get this model and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is the model here. So this is my favorite unit of the Sanguinary Guard, or at least the favorite model. He is the leader of the squad, for want of better terms. So as you can see, he has a big crest on his helmet, where some of the others have either no crest or smaller crests. He still does have a sword, which is good, and you can see that it even has a little like wing hilt thing, which is really cool. But he has this Sanguinary Guard banner, and this is not just for looks. This provides all kind of buffs to both you, to the other Sanguinary Guard, and to other allies in the vicinity. Damage buffs, defensive buffs, being able to use leadership abilities, and being able to actually use this guy as a leader model and lead other squads of non-Sanguinary Guard into battle. So he is insane, and I have played him once on the tabletop, just when I was first starting off with my Blood Angels, because I got my Sanguinary Guard fairly early on, and I was like gobsmacked at how much this guy just essentially killed everything that stood in front of him. But yeah, those are my Sanguinary Guard, guys. I hope you like them. Also, I know the wings texture is fairly not great. Again, I was still very new to painting at the time. But yeah, one thing I want to know in the comments, and again, I genuinely do not like asking this stuff, but do you prefer the old Sanguinary Guard or the new Guard? Okay, and lastly, before we finish up this codex, we have one more section to read, and that is none other than the Death Company. So let's get started. The Death Company. Any scion of Sanguinius can be struck down by the Black Rage. The spiritual curse dwells deep within the soul of every blood angel, and there is little telling as to when it might take hold of its victim. Those that are consumed by it are folded into the death company, a fearsome and morbid brotherhood of madmen. On the eve of battle, the blood angels bend the knee and turn their thoughts to Sanguinius' sacrifice. Chaplains pace among their warriors, blessing each while chanting the Mora Portis, the Mass of Doom. They take careful note of which warriors slur their speech, are glazed of eye, or appear overly excited. For these are most likely to succumb to the Black Rage. Most do not, as much of their training has been dedicated to suppressing the strength of this affliction. For some, however, the call is too strong, and the memories of the Primarch too overwhelming. These warriors and collapse into their chaplain's arm. In their minds, members of the Death Company have lost all knowledge of who they were, where they are, and even the time in which they are living. Their consciences are thrust millennia into the past, where they believe they are fighting in Sanguinius' final battle of the Horus Heresy. They believe they are Sanguinius himself, engaging in combat with the arch-traitor, though in reality they may be fighting monstrous Tyranid horrors, battling piratical Drukhari raiders, or repelling hulking orc brutes. In their minds, they are striking down heretic Astartes regardless. They are lost to their brothers and chapter forever, swept up by an unbreakable madness. Though most of the time few brothers fall into this appalling embrace of the Black Rage, and on occasion none do at all, it has been unheard of for entire strike forces to yield to it. These terrible moments are marks of shame in the Blood Angels' history. Names such as Nycath, the Scatten Atrocity, the War of Broken Wings, the Stenar Massacre, and the Battle of Beneke reach conjure a meaningful silence in any gathering of Sanguinius' gene sons. The Blood Angels believe that giving the warriors of the Death Company the most glorious possible death in battle is a responsibility of paramount importance. With great sadness, the Death Company's armor is painted in the black of mourning and adorned with crimson solitaires to represent the Sanguinis sacrifice. Parchments are hung from their plate, detailing their warriors' myriad battles and victories. Thus are their greatest deeds in life commemorated and celebrated, and their worth affirmed. The Death Company are sent into fights no sane warrior would engage in. And they win. They hack monstrous beasts into death, smash through impenetrable lines, and have resisted Imperial assault for months, and lead savage boarding actions against enemy capital ships, flooding narrow corridors with the foe's blood in great sieges that have lasted for years. They serve as the forlorn hope, crashing over battlements and sweep them clear of enemies to snatch victory after victory from the jaws of the defeated. These traits are simply the product of the unrelenting insanity. Regardless, Death Company warriors fight on through the most brutal of circumstances, from losing limbs and having their chest blown out, or even being set ablaze, or covered in the acidic ichor of Xenos, all the while their eyes remain filmed with the frantic killing light, and terrifying roars pour forth from their vox grills. The onerous duty of guarding the enraged Death Company into the Hall of War falls to the chaplains. the their bellicose oaths of and zealous commitment, exhorting the deranged brothers to even greater acts of violence, nonetheless particularly strong-willed scions of Sanguinius, such as members of the Sanguinary Guard, have been known to lead the Death Company despite not belonging to their reclusion. Lucian Gallian of the Blood Drinkers Sanguinary Guard insisted on painting one of his pauldrons black in honor after seeing their sacrifice, and accomplished firsthand during the War of Malachion's Hope. It is an unfortunate reality for the sons of Sanguinius that, on occasion, not every member of the Death Company will fall in battle. Most will die in the aftermath, finally slain by the horrendous wounds or by a merciful axe blow from the Redeemer of the Lost, whose solemn duty is to end their suffering. For those who cannot be released from their curse in these ways, the red thirst almost always awaits them, their berserk fury somehow made worse by the insatiable thirst for blood and a hunger for flesh. Those unfortunate souls are locked away deep within the tower of Amon Ball, for their own safety as well as that of their brothers. Howls echo throughout the tower, and those who hear their screams are filled with pity, hoping that when their own time comes, they will meet in battle rather than suffer with such an ignoble fate. Oh my god, that just made me view the Death Company in an entirely new light. They are so terrifying, and it's both amazing and commendable and also sad how well their brothers treat them. They don't treat them as lunatics or madmen, they treat them as people who are sick, and they care about them, they want what's best for them, and they want to make sure that they go out in their own way, which is a very Warhammer thing. But yeah, my love for the Death Company just quadrupled. Oh my god. By the way, speaking of Death Company, I am going to show some models of the Death Company and explain their models, the different types, the old and the new, as well as how they play on tabletop. Okay, so we just went over what Death Company is in the book, so I thought I would take the time now to show you Death Company on the tabletop. So, like it says, Death Company plays very low accurately. They are essentially going on one last mission, which is basically a suicide mission, since they have already fallen to the Black Rage. So the way Death Company units work is they are extremely good at melee and deep strikes and mobility, as all caution, all self-preservation is gone in the minds of these men. They are simply out here to kill whoever they see, and whoever they see in their eyes is going to be Horus. So let's have a look at some of the models. So these are some of the original Death Company models. These are the older ones. Originally, Death Company actually did have its own models, and their logo, as you can see, is just this red X with their signature all black armor. So a lot of them wield similar weapons to assault intercessors, or just have two-handed melee weapons. So this guy has a plasma pistol and a chainsword, as well as a jetpack. A lot of the older models do have jetpacks just to add to their speed, so they're able to jump around essentially in a schizophrenia-induced madness. Here is another model, one of the older ones. This guy is a higher ranking one. I believe this guy, I actually don't know what rank this guy is. I think he might be either a lieutenant or a captain, but I don't know. And he would be used to lead a squad. He has a power hammer, a thunder hammer, again with a jetpack, slightly different design jetpack, but yeah. So those are the old models, and like I said, the old models, Death Company had their own thing. Now in 40k, Death Company does not have their own specific models. Instead, you paint your own Blood Angels in the Death Company colors and use them as Death Company units. Now, you can paint any unit or any infantry unit, except for maybe like Centurions or Aggressors or something, as Death Company. However, you do not get the abilities of that original unit. For example, here I have a couple of Reavers and a couple of Assault Intercessors. So if I choose to use this Reaver, who I have painted as a Death Company guy, I cannot use his Reaver rule set. He will be using the Death Company infantry rule set. And same goes for the Assault Intercessor. He will also be using the Death Company standard infantry. So you don't get to have like a Death Company Assault Intercessor. You can model-wise, and I personally really like this as it lets you make Death Company the way you want to. Personally, I really like Reavers as Death Company units with their skull masks and their massive knives. I just think they make for a great Death Company unit. They have the look to them, if that makes sense. As well, my second favorite pick is Assault Intercessors, because these guys are, you know, in the pose of running up to get close, which is what Death Company does. And the Assault Intercessors loadout is very similar, if not the same in some instances, as the older Death Company models. You can also use Jump Pack Intercessors if you want, and with those you do get the ability to actually use a Jump Pack, which is really nice. Another great thing is the Death Company paint scheme is just that. It is just a paint scheme. So this Assault Intercessor here, who I have painted as Death Company, I can use him as a standard Assault Intercessor. I just did the paint job just because it looks cool, and vice versa. I can use a normally painted Assault Intercessor as a Death Company unit. It is just a case of, if you want to have your models painted for a certain purpose and have dedicated units for that, then that is how it goes. Now, let's move on to some of the higher tier units. So here we have the original Death Company Captain. So you see him here with his chain sword as well as his plasma pistol. And he has his halo and his helmet with the red eyes, and the cross on his little shield. I cannot remember what that is called, I apologize. So he is the leader of a Death Company squad or multiple squads. Very important unit to have for Death Company, as keeping these guys in order is very, very important. Now, this is the official Death Company captain model. Similar to with the other units, you can take any Blood Angels captain model and paint him and use him as a Death Company captain, which is exactly what I did here with my Gravis captain. So this is a Gravis captain who has fallen to the Black Rage, and he is totally kitted out, head to heel, in Death Company symbols. So the chapter lost a real one with this guy. You know, it's sad to see a Gravis captain fall, but you know, it happens to the best of us. But it just makes it a bit more interesting, you know, not having to run the same model multiple times and being able to choose the captain models that you like. You know, so if you don't like this model, you don't even have to use them. You can choose your favorite captain models and use them. I just like having the original. But similarly to all of the other units, you cannot use your captain if he's not an official Death Company captain, you cannot use what they were for their rules. So this guy was a Gravis captain, is a Gravis captain, but if he is in Death Company or being deployed as Death Company, he is simply just a Death Company captain. He does not get any of the benefits of being in Gravis armor. Same goes for Phobos armor and so on and so forth. Same goes for Terminator armor, all that stuff. Now, I also have, just to show you, I have this guy who is a suppressor who I painted in Death Company colors just because I thought it was cool. Now, this guy does not really fit the lore and the playstyle of Death Company, you know, running headlong into gunfire with a chainsword screaming Horus, but I just thought it would be cool to, you know, every now and then at least have one or two of each type of model have a Death Company variant in my army. So let us continue. Here is another one of my Assault Intercessors. Now, there are two more models that we have that I want to show you. So first off is just nothing special. This is just one of my 3 drop pods for my Blood Angels, and this is my Death Company drop pod. So again, standard drop pod, but I use this one exclusively for Death Company. Now, if I need to, you know, it's not one of those things where it's only able to hold Death Company units. You can use this for any unit that would fit in a drop pod. I just like having like themes like this in my army. So I have 2 normal Blood Angel drop pods. If you have seen my 2 videos showcasing my army, and then I have this one. This one is actually recent. And lastly, we have one of the exclusive units to the Blood Angels, and that is the Death Company Dreadnought. So this guy serves as a extremely potent close quarters killer, specializing in infantry and light vehicles. So I have him painted here. You can see the cross there, the skull, the gun on the top of him. I really like this model. The Blood Angels, in my opinion, I think have some of the best exclusive units for Loyalist chapters. And I have him here with the twin claws, just because that's how he is depicted in kind of the lore, and that's the standard for him. I do have a multi-melter that I can give him, but I just prefer him like this, and he is an incredible anti-infantry thing. So he is great to be used for if you want to have a dreadnought that specializes in pure melee without having to dedicate the points of one of the heavier type of dreadnoughts. But that is it for Death Company. I just wanted to show you guys that again. So we have the old models, the standard models just painted differently, the dreadnought, and the drop pod. Cool, let's get back to the book. However, guys, that is it for the Warhammer 40k Blood Angels Codex Part 2. So that's the Codex complete. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I really hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed making this. Apologies for the cat in the background. So this is my third Warhammer Codex video, and I really hate asking for comments and stuff, but I want to know, what do you guys honestly think of these Codex videos? Art books will always be the main focus of my channel, but I just make these videos of these books mainly just because I enjoy doing them so much. But I genuinely want to know, what do you guys think? Do you like them? Do you not like them? Do you like looking at the art? Do you like listening while doing something else or going to sleep? Because as much as I love making them, if you guys don't like them, I won't make them. But yeah, that is it for the Blood Angels 10th edition Codex. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this, and I especially really hope that you pick up a Blood Angels army, and trust me, you will love them as much as I love them. So my name has been Crimson, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good evening.